Vedanta. So in the last class we had done, by some mistake, the YouTube streaming has failed. So I'll try to kind of revisit some of these slokas, and then we'll move forward. So we were discussing towards the end of our last discussion the fruitlessness of what is called accepting the concept of prarabdha. Generally, prarabdha is accepted, but here he's taking a different viewpoint, which is in fact more authentically is the Vedantic viewpoint. Just give me 1 second. I'll just come back. I have to shut the door. Give me 1 second, please. So, towards the end of this discussion, that this whole idea prarabdha, he is refuting it, and true to the spirit of Vedanta, Advaita Vedanta, which is monism or non-dualism, we can only accept the ultimate truth and the presence of that unifying consciousness. Nothing other than exists, and that we will explain. How when we start meditating on the Brahman, meditating on Ishvara, meditating on the ultimate divinity, in the earlier stages, in the preliminary stages, we have the Bheda Buddhi, A, meditating on B, that we meditate on Brahman, we meditate on God and stuff like that. But ultimately, this identification we have that we exist and we are meditating on God. This I-ness is Jiva, is Tattvamasi, you are that. The Tvam Padartha, having got purified, the adjectives, the defining features, the attributes we drop. What remains of Tvam is that pure consciousness. The Alpagyatva, Aparakshatvadi, all the attributes that I know myself, I'm a man, I'm a person, this, that, these attributes are removed, washed away through vichara, through proper understanding that I can't be my body, I can't be my thoughts, I can't be my intellect. So I'm beyond all this. I'm the witness of all that I think I am, and everything goes remains that consciousness that is no different from Ishvara, which might Maya Upahita Chaitanya. Then we remove all the adjectives and attributions, whatever attributions we made to God, his omniscience, that he is omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent, all these adjectives we remove. What remains is only pure consciousness, and he is explaining that this pure consciousness is equal to that pure consciousness is only one pure consciousness. Now, in that state, when we have that state, then what do you mean by prarabdha? That is the question he's asking. Prarabdha, that whatever is the cause of this body can exist, that we can presume to be real if we accept this body to be real. If this body is also a projection, it is just an appearance, then obviously that causal factor which accounts for we having this body, we having these thoughts, we having these activities and everything, these will continue to appear, but the fundamental principle that these are real, they get refuted, they get nullified. So all these things may continue to be there, but ultimately they are not real. Therefore, prarabdha need not be accepted. That is what he mentioned in the verse number 98. First thing is dehasyapi prapanchatvat. Body itself is part of this prapancha, and this prapancha is Maya, not different from Adhisthana, which is Brahman. If this whole samsara, this universe that we see, are not fundamentally real, they are only phenomenal, body is also phenomenal, then prarabdha, the concept, is also phenomenal. It has no fundamental truth in it. Prarabdha sthiti kutaha. How can prarabdha can be a category of understanding which is real? There's nothing real about it. Then what? Ajnana Agyani Janabodhartham. This is relevant, it's used by the Shastras in order to explain what is good, what is bad, what is Karma Siddhanta, why he should be pious, why he should do sadhana and dhyana and everything for the Agyani Jana, so that he is aware of it and he is able to practice it. Prarabdham bhakti vai shruti. Of course, the Shruti Vakyas do mention about Prarabdha only for the benefit of them. That is what he's mentioning. Then, in the verse number 98, he says, Khiyante chasya karmani tasmin drishte paravare bahutvam tan nishedhartham shrutya gitam cha yat sphutam Khiyante chasya karmani tasmin drishte paravare. So, this whole particular thing, Vidyate Hridaya Granthis, Chidyante Sarva Sansayaha. Hridaya Granthi is that knot of ignorance in our heart. Not in the biological heart, but it's in our understanding. A false identification with this body, with this samsara, that is called what is called the source of all our problems. That knot of ignorance, Hridaya Granthis, Chidyante Sarva Sansaya, and all the doubts, the counter questions, and the apprehensions we have, which weaken our sadhana. We are not being able to have Shraddha and Vishwasa in Acharya and Guru Upadesha, whatever is there in the Shruti Vakyas. Why should we believe what is written in the Upanishads? Kind of an attitude, that iconoclasm, which appears very exciting when we are young. And he's saying these doubts are removed. And then kshiyante chasya karmani asya sadhakasya karmani cha kshiyante. These karmas get destroyed. Now karmani is bahuvachana, because in Sanskrit we have one and two and then many. Ekavachana, dvivachana, bahuvachana. In English we have boy and boys. But in balaka, balako, balakaha. Balako, the two boys, and then balakaha, and many boys. That is how we always move. Therefore, he's saying chasya karmani. If actually the purpose was to say that as a result of jnana, which we do read in the commentaries on Bhagavad Gita and Upanishads, that the sarva karmani doesn't refer to the prarabdha karma, only to sanchita and kriyamana, agami karma. Whatever is happening during this life, agami karmas, and whatever has happened prior to our taking birth, assuming this body, sanchita karmas of billions of births, they will get destroyed. Prarabdha will continue, therefore, the person will have to hold this body and pass through some apparent sukhas and dukkhas, some moments of pleasure and pain, some comforts and discomforts, till he is having this body. Then he gets liberated. There are a lot of Shruti Vakyas to say that he has to hold on to this body for a while, even after Atmajnana. Therefore, Pravda has to be there. Otherwise, how do we explain the Vyavahara of a Jivana Mukta? That is the doubt. That is the solution given by them. Bhagavan Shankaracharya says, I have no problem with all this. So far, you are explaining to a guy who is just doing his sadhana, it's all right. But for Atmagyani, this theory doesn't hold. Well, the Newtonian physics is absolutely right for a guy who is a 8th grader or a 7th grader in school. Of course, Newton's laws of physics is gospel truth. The same student gets into his graduation and he's doing physics of higher standards. He knows theory of relativity and he's no more constrained by the worldview of Newton. He's gone beyond it. And then he has, he reads Einstein and all, and then he moves forward. He reads much more. For example, so we know initially we are taught 4 dimensions. First, we know about 3 dimensions, then 4 dimensions, and then he talks about 10 dimensions. You talk to a student of physics in MSc. So they will say, yeah, we know about, say, linear space. They'll talk about curvilinear space. The concepts keep changing as we go higher. Similarly, this Atmagyani, for him, Prarabdha doesn't hold much of his attention because he knows his body is not real. The cause of this body is prarabdha karma. That also is not real for him. Why so? He has no sense of agency anymore. He's not an agent. He doesn't have kartritva, bhoktritva. So bhog kya karega? He's not even bhokta. So he cannot suffer. Yeah, for us, he's suffering. He's having disease and all kinds of problems he has. But for the jnani, he doesn't have any problems. Outwardly only he has problems. He's saying bahutvam tan nishedhartham. Hyante chasya karmani tasmin drishte paravare bahutvam. That bahutva, bahuvachana karmani tan nishedhartham. Prarabdha nishedhartham. Shrutya Gitam is very much mentioned in the Shruti Vakyas. Cha Yat Sputam. Therefore, is explaining Mundaka Upanishad 2 to 8 through this, whatever is mentioned. He's saying because of Bahuvachana, the indication is that Prarabdha is not fundamentally real. Then they goes on. And then in the verse number 99, he says, because you want to satisfy Like, for example, if you are explaining to children the earth is round, you show him the globe and you say, 8 years or 9 years old boy or girl, and say that the earth is round, they will immediately think, where are we? Okay, you are here. Why am I? I'm not falling. They don't understand about gravitation. For them, it's much easier to accept the earth is flat. Of course, there'll be other anxieties. If this earth is flat, then if you go on a boat, then you're going to fall off earth after some time. But they have all kinds of anxieties. As children, we had them. Now, in order to satisfy a child, if we accept earth is flat, we are sacrificing a greater truth. Like, for example, because in order to accept our faith, we went and put a gun on the, on the head of Galileo and said, you declare this whole heliocentric thing, you dismiss, and you say that sun is moving around earth. That poor fellow said yes. So we committed a philosophical suicide by doing these things, because we are frightening the ability of somebody to aspire for truth. This is the same thing he's saying. If you accept prarabdha, because of our limited intelligence, we cannot explain to the ajnani purusha, somebody who is not fully initiated, somebody who is not established in the truth, in order to satisfy his intermediate hunger for some kind of a theory about papa punya and karma. If you are advising him that yes, yes, prarabdha is there, do you know what are the problems explained in the verse number 99? उच्यते गैर्वला चेतद् तदानर्थद्वयागमः वेदान्तमतहानं च यतो ज्ञानम इति श्रुतिः उच्यते ज्ञेहि अज्ञेहि वलात्, by the force of somebody who is ignorant, in order to satisfy him, for example. If we say, if we accept because of ignorance that there is prarabdha, do you know? You are inviting greater calamity. You're trying to gain something, but you're losing much more. And what is this? Dvayanartha. There are two anarthas which are counterproductive for you. That is what is going to come your way. What are these? He's saying, number one is that anirmokhya prasangat. Bhagavan says in the commentary, he's saying, Tada anartha dvayagamo dosa dvaya praptihi tatra prarabdha ruptasya dvaitasya angikare. Prarabdha Rupa you accept as fundamentally real. So there is Advaita Brahman and there is Prarabdha Karma. Then you are also accepting Jiva, because Prarabdha Karma creates this body of a Jiva. Then you have many people. These are all dualities you are accepting. So if you accept all these, what happens? There is Prarabdha. So you studied. A Prarabdha is there. Would you get Jnana, Atma Jnana? So the teacher will say that you do this course, will I get a degree? Then the teacher will say, yeah, but if you have prarabdha against you, you cannot get the degree. Would you go for that course? You will not be interested. So once we accept prarabdha, we are putting one of the biggest insurmountable difficulty, a particular problem which we cannot overcome. So we cannot overcome that mistake, that pratibandhaka, that roadblock we are putting, which will inhibit the chances of our getting liberated or having self-realization, because we are accepting prarabdha. That's a roadblock. You're accepting it. And he's saying it's kind of suicidal. You're inflicting harm on yourself, number one. Number two, that is anirmukhya prasangha eko doshaha. Mukhya bhave jnana sampradaya ucheda rupa ditya doshaha. Now, Sotriya Brahmanishta, that is the idea it's mentioned. Abrijinam. Somebody is in Vedanta, the advice is given to the student, go to a teacher who knows the texts, who knows the Shastras, number one. He must be Abrijina. That means he must be beyond the papas. He is not anymore trapped in samsara and committing small, small papas. He's a Atma. He's not again inclined towards sinful ways. Is nothing sin. Sin is what? Ignorance. Whatever we call sin is a product of our ignorance. So again, you are trapped there. That is again a big problem. So you should not be there. Number one. Number three, Brahmanishta. He's firmly established in Brahman. So he's Brahmagyani. That's so the Jnana Parampara, if we have to accept whatever we are reading, like Vidyaranya Muni, he was a minister to the king of Vijayanagara Empire. One of the most established, his one of his brothers is no other than Sayana, who wrote the bhasyas of all the, the king wanted somebody to write elaborate commentaries in the Vedas, because the paramparas were getting terminated. People were losing interest. This guy said, okay, I have a brother who is so bright. And there were three brothers, encyclopedias. So the Sayana wrote all the famous Sayana bhasyas. He's the other brother. And he was the minister, he was the advisor. At the same time, he was so erudite. He has written so many books and commentaries. And he was a great Devi Upasaka. There's a famous Mukambika temple in Karnataka where people go to start their Vidyaranya. See, Saraswati is Brahma Swarupini. So people go there for their pujas and other things. Now, this person, Vidyaranya Muni, was a great Upasaka. And at the same time, was a great Vedanti. And he wrote several books, so many books. Anubhuti Prakasa, so many, not one or two. Panchadasi, one of the greatest treatises on, Vedanta. This whole philosophy of Vedanta is there. So many books he has written, and this commentary on this AporakshaAnubhuti. If we accept that he didn't know what is the truth, what are we reading? We are wasting our time. So he's saying, therefore, so Jnana Parampara, this Guru Parampara, Uchcheda Dosha, that will get uprooted because nobody has got liberation, because everybody had some prarabdha and he must have suffered and he would suffer. So you will never have one self-realized soul. No Ramakrishna Paramhansa, no Ramana, nobody. You cannot accept anybody as liberated because they would have some prarabdha or the other. They were in the body even after Atmajnana. So there will be completely Jnana Parampara Uchcheda Dosha. There is another problem he's saying. न केवलं दोष द्वेष एव प्राप्ति अपि तु वेदांत मतहानं च. Vedanta Mata, the opinion of Vedanta, what is the conclusive opinion of Vedanta? That only Sad Brahma, that alone is real, nothing else is. Now you are allowing a bull in the china shop called Prarabdha. The moment we accept that as fundamentally real, phenomenally no problem. Fundamentally real means Jivatva, that also is real. Then so many Prarabdha, so many karmas, and so many jivas are there. Then whole prapancha, this whole diversity, then becomes real. And that is also the Dvaita Matavada, Dvaita Vedanta, that's they do. But the Advaita Matahana, this particular Advaita Vedanta Matahana, that is the other big loss. Because the beauty of Advaita Vedanta is that it is taking us to a level of truth which is beyond what is conventionally known as divinity. It's beyond the level of divinity we identify as a guru or God, because guru or god is different from us. We bow to them, we touch their feet. Vedanta empowers us by telling us that our inner truth is not that of our limited individuality. The ultimate truth about our presence is pure consciousness, which is not limited by location, by time, or physical entity. So that is our real nature. So it's really elevating us to the ultimate level of that universal consciousness with which we identify. And if we discard it, then no, fine. There are other methods and there are other people doing it. So that is a limited way in which dealing with we're dealing with divinity which is outside of us, distant from us. We are chasing it, we are running after it. But Vedanta says, no, you are doing all this, that's fine. That is only so far as your sadhana is concerned. Once you have reached there, you have nowhere to go. There is no Swarga, there is no Brahmaloka, you don't have to go anywhere. This is here and now. Liberation is here and now. It's all about transforming your consciousness. It's all about reaching that state. It's very hard, it's very difficult. We have layers and layers of habits and sanskaras. We did that in Viveka Chudamani. Vasana Kshaya and Manonasa, two big challenges. We have to remove all the old files from our sanskaras. The mind keeps behaving in olden ways, inherited conditions and tendencies. We accept it. But what is our real nature? Our ultimate nature is of truth, of bliss, of consciousness. That we would lose if we accept Prarabdha. Therefore, he is removing this. Tari king, pratipratabyam, why should I do it? He's saying yataha iti, yataha, because he's saying yataha, what he said, yato jnanam iti srutihi. You should accept that interpretation of the Upanishads or Bhagavad Gita, of any text, which ultimately empowers you, enables you to have self realization. Why are you falling prey to a faulty interpretation which pulls you down, which doesn't benefit you? That's not going to help you. That is what he's mentioning. न केवलं दोषद्वयस्य एव प्राप्तिः अपि तु वेदान्तमतहानं वेदान्तमतस्य द्वैतस्य हानं त्यागो भविष्यति. Then he's saying that then what should you do? Yato yasyaha sakasat jnanam bhavati tadrisi sasritihi. That Shruti Vakya, that Upanishad Vakya should be something which ultimately empowers you to have self-realization. Grahyati shesaha. Sasrutistu. But then he's saying, what is that Shruti Vakya? What is, give me that statement, tameva dhiro vigyaya pragyam kurvita brahmanaha nanu dhayad vahunu savdana bacho viglapanam hitat. There's no point of going to all the karma kandas and all kinds of sastras. You go to the market, if you go to Kasi, the Sanskrit Vidya publications, several of them, you know, different stacks, and if you ask them, so the stacks dedicated to Vedanta are very limited. There are only few students who are interested. If you go, how many books you have on Ayurveda? Oh, hundreds. And on Tantra, thousands. And then Ayurveda and Tantra, and another is astrology, Jyotish Shastra. They have thousands of books. Why? These are the books the young Brahmin boys who are trying to survive as priests. They want to perfect all this. Why? People want good health. All the corporate guys, foreigners, they are very much interested. They want to get, and therefore they go that way. That's number one. Number two is that there are a lot of people who have some problems in their everyday life. They want a quick solution. So, okay, these Agama Shastras are there. You do this puja, you do that meditation, you do that mantra yapa. So, interest in Tantra. And finally, what? Then Jyotisha. What's going to be there tomorrow? How can I reach my destination? Is there an obstacle? So, you have astrology. Any serious study on Vedanta? Not too many scholars. Okay. Therefore, he's saying what? You must nanudhyayad vahun savdan bacho viglapanamitat. It's you are just tiring your tongue, you're just tiring yourself by reading all this, because ultimately they are not going to liberate you, they are not going to give you self-realization. Self-realization, few books are enough. You just pick up the 10 Upanishads, they are more than enough. And then you don't even have to do it, because now there are a lot of Upanishads.org.in, the great some devotees of the Sri Aurobindo ashram. So they have come up with that website where the translations are easily available. It's an app, you can download it, so wherever you're traveling you can just read it. There's so many apps now we have come up, and with commentaries, they are all easily available, easily accessible. And then he's saying, Tameva dhiro vigyaya, knowing only that truth, vigyaya, pragyam kurvita brahmanaha. So you get that wisdom and establish yourself in truth. Don't run after this. Dhiro viveki brahmanaha, brahma bhavitum ichuhu tameva. So you should only read what? Vedanta prasiddham atmanam. That Atma Tattva about which it praises in several books in the Upanishads. Only focus on that. Vigyaya, knowing that. Adau upadesataha sahsratasya. So the Acharya has given you advice, and then you read the Upanishads again and you do meditation on that. So gyatva anantaram pragyam sastracharya upadishta vishayam aparakshyanubhava paryantam. Then till you get that liberation, continue to meditate on it. It's not going to happen in couple of weeks or months. It's going to take a long time. We have a lot of old files to be deleted and cleaned up. So we go on doing. Then he's saying, so jigyasa parisamapti karim kurvita, till your doubts are completely removed and your aspiration to know this, know the self, has been fulfilled. You continue to do that sadhana, and you will mention how to do it just after a couple of verses. Bahun karma upasana pratipadakan shabdan. All these modern day gurus, they tell you, and there are different TV channels to waste your time, that you do this, you do this milk, and you go to that temple on a particular day, and they will tell you different advices. Sometimes these are like they are like sedatives. or they just kind of they ameliorate some intense pain you have, but they don't solve your original problem. Of course, you need many of these things. By the way, you heard a very bad news. One of your dear ones is in a hospital. You are at a distant place. You cannot do anything. What do you do? Vedanta is not going to help you there. What helps at that moment? So far, your mental condition, which is again a game of his own. What do? You do prayer. You do prayer. You did nama japa. These are all relevant. These are abantara prayojana. These are having abantara prayojana. There is a justification for all this. On the path of knowledge, there are different roadblocks. These everyday experiences and experiences of discomfort and agony and pain and ill health, they would all come our way. And doing that upasana, doing meditation, doing some yoga and pranayama and all that, these are kind of helping from all sides. And then the main work, which is meditating on the truth. So that is how we are going to move forward. Bahun karma pasana pratipadekan savdhan Vakya sandarbhan na anudhyayat. No, don't not chinta. Don't think about them. Paritan bruyat king tena ityaha vacha. If I do it, what's going to happen? Tadveda sastra pathanam vacho viglapanam visheshena sramakaram. You are just tiring yourself reading so many books. They are not very helpful. Very interesting, I met couple of sadhakas. One guy who was for 1.5 decades in the Kriya Yoga tradition, and he was in the US. He's a US citizen, and he went there, was in Australia for a while, and then in the US, and he was running one of these branches. And then he went to Tibet, and he went to Myanmar to do the Buddhist meditation practice. He went to Sri Lanka, and then spent a bit of time in Thailand, and then he came back. And having done all that, he landed up in Rishikesh, and then he got into Vedanta. I said, so many of his tradition people thought that he's wasting himself because he could have made millions as a yoga guru because he knows about it. He knows about Kriya Yoga. He knows all the basic asanas, Patanjali Yoga Sutras. He takes yoga classes, but he reads Vedanta. I said, why so? He said, no, I read all these books and sadhanas and all, but they are not fulfilling. Ultimately, the kind of peace you feel within yourself by meditating on the Upanishads, I've tried everything. So I've got tired of it and have come here. And there are quite a few I meet here once in a while who, towards the end of their life, having tried everything, they do a lot of tantric sadhana paths and meditations and yoga, and for pleasing others by impressing and all, it's all fine. But when you want to do something for yourself, you ultimately turn to the Upanishads. And because they tell you what's your inner value, which no one recognizes, only Shastra recognizes. Your wife, your husband, your brothers, sisters, your followers, colleagues, they see you as a rich man, as a good man, as an influential man, and everything. There is only one person, and that is Shruti Bhagavati. That is our spiritual mother, the Vedanta, the Shruti Bhagavati, Upanishads. They call her spiritual mother. She alone recognizes us that you are ultimately divine. That spiritual mother, physical mother, doesn't tell you this. Only Shruti Bhagavati tells us that you are ultimately divine. You don't need to run around. Whom are you running for? What are you running for? You just need to find yourself. These kinds of words in praise of our inner nature. And this inner nature is no different from what we define as the divine. That ultimate encouragement, that affirmation comes from only Upanishads, and that gives you a sense of not a mental or psychological sense of elation, but a sense of, oh, finally a moment of arrival. Okay, I'm here now. That kind of a feeling. That sort of gives you that aha moment, which is not a psychological thing, which is beyond what is psychological, beyond what is emotional. It's beyond manomaya kosha and vijnanamaya kosha. And you have that quietude, you have that inner peace within yourself. Mind will keep disturbing you with different other truths from time to time, but inwardly, in the innermost core of your heart, you know that all these are voices coming from my old sanskaras. The ultimate truth is what I have finally heard from the Upanishads. He's saying, then he's saying, Sarva Anubhava Siddham iti alam Pallavitena. So it's mentioned all that in these few words. Then he is now taking us, okay, finally we know the truth. Are we happy? Have we reached? No, no, you haven't reached. We have just seen the Google map for self realization. So he's not going to, now he's going to hold our hands and take us on the sadhana path. So in the verse number 100, he's saying, त्रिपञ्चाङ्गान्यथो वक्ष्ये पूर्वोक्तस्य हि लब्धये तेस्य सर्वैः सदा कार्यं निदिध्यासनमेव तु त्रिपञ्च अङ्गानि tripancha 5 3 times, that is 15. Tripancha angani atha, now therefore I'm going to tell you, purvoktasya hi labdhaye, in order for you to achieve, attain, accomplish what I have told you before. And what is that? Jivana Mukti, that Atmakyana. Tehischa, and with these 15 handles or keys of sadhana, I'm going to hand over to you. Tehischa sarvehi. Use all these 15 aspects or these 15 steps. Sarvehi sada karyam. You should always do it. That is something. Karyam is what you should do. Karyam. And what is that? Nididhyasanam evatu. So these are the 15 steps to accomplishing nididhyasana in a successful manner. Then in the next verse, there is nothing much. Okay, the commentary is a little there. Tadeva etavata grantha sandarbhena mukhya adhikarinah. Mukhya adhikari is what? Sadhana chatushraya sampannaha. Nitya nitya vastu vivekaha. Iha mutra falavoga viragaha. Vairagya is not interested in this life or afterlife. And then what? Samadama, the Satka Sampati, Shama, Dama, Uparati, Titikya, Shraddha, Samadhana, all the six of them. And then mumukshitvam, you have all this, is a mukhya adhikari, vairagyadi sadhana chatushtaya purvakam, Vedanta Vakya Vichara eva. Then he is focused on the Vedanta Vakya Vichara. Pratyaga bhinna brahmo paraksha jnana dvara mukhyam moksha karanam iti avitam. So finally, if you do this, ultimately you do Vichara. Then there is again a two-phase. Vidyaranya Muni says, the commentator of these texts. He says, look here, you are a Manda Adhikari or you are a middle level Adhikari, Madhyam Adhikari. You are not being able to do Vichara because these texts are very difficult and the concepts are also even more difficult. But he's saying it may be useful for you then to just meditate hours saying Aham Brahmasmi. I am ultimately that ultimate divine thing. I'm caught up in this trap called a human body, human mind. Yes, I understand. I have desires and this and that. My ultimate nature, however, is pure divine consciousness. He's saying, do that upasana. Drive away all of the thoughts. He's saying, through this upasana, there are so many pratibandhakas, you are nullifying, you are neutralizing a lot of tendencies which are hidden within you, and in course of time, there will be krama mukti. Even if you may not get self-realization, you will go to Brahmaloka. You will anyway nullify all the purva karmas in course of time. There will be some, you are going to Brahmaloka. From there, you will get liberation along with Brahmaji, because Brahmaji also gets liberation in Kalpantara. So he gets himself liberation, and once you go there, you are in a state of bliss. There are no needs, everything gets satisfied. Anyway, so the takeaway point from this is there is no complete frustrating experience. Like you get into a film, you didn't like it, you come out depressed. You spend money or wasted time. In Vedanta, a little of this is very useful, as he said in Bhagavad Gita. Once you get into it, whether you are ultimately the greatest Vedanti or not required. You have some understanding. Vichara, whatever it happens, may be very skillful with ideas, so you are being able to do it very successfully. If you can't, don't you worry, you can do Upasana, that Nirguna Brahma Upasana. Okay, I cannot do it difficult. Okay, do Swaguna Upasana. That also I can do. Bhagwan has explained, he has negotiations with Arjuna. If you cannot do sannyasa, forget it. Do, do Gauna sannyasa. Do karma, do falatyaga. No, I have to think about the results. Okay, fine. Imagine you are doing it for me. That also is difficult. Okay, just remember me and continue to do your thing. So he has negotiations with the bhakta because he doesn't want to leave somebody in the dark. But just having some connectivity with the divine in whatever way, at whatever level, are always these efforts, these initiatives, if we undertake, are always beneficial. And that's what he's saying here, that with these 15 steps, nididhyasana, you do it. Idanim asakrit vicharya api. Asakrit means again and again. Sakrit is once, asakrit many times. If you do the vichara, buddhi mandya vishaya satyadi pratibandhena. So you have maybe dull intelligence. And then there are a lot of obstructions. If you are not being able pratibandhena aparokya jnanam jasya na jayate, the person who cannot get the ultimate realization, yasya manda adhikarinaha nirguna brahma upasana eva mukhyam sadhanam iti abhipritya sasadhanam dhyana yogam pratijanati acharyaha. Then if you cannot reach there, okay, you do upasana. So these, whatever is going to speak, it doesn't take into account whether you are the greatest Vedanti or you are a middle level or you are a preliminary sadhaka. These steps are very, very relevant. Okay, that is what he's saying. If you are a bright one, you will directly get the liberation. They are one in a, one in a billion, not one in a million. So obviously you may or may not be there. So you take these sadhana steps very seriously. Atho sabda adhikari vedarthaha. So atha is mentioned. So if kvachit atha iti पाठः तस्मिन् पक्षे यतो मंदाधिकार विचारम न लभते अतो हेतुः इति अर्थः. Atho or ata, whatever, therefore, or hereafter, I'm going to tell you about it. Three pancha, three gunitani pancha, pancha dasa ityartha, 15 steps. Tat sankhya angani. So these are the steps for what? Nididhyasana angi sadhana visheshan. Angi is the whole. Anga is a part. So anga angi, angsha angsi, Abhayava Abhayavi. So the Nidhyasana is the total course, and these are the steps. Different angas are there, 15 of them. So he's saying, okay, then he's saying, Tehi Vakhyamanehi Sarvei Angehi Nididhyasanam Eva Karyam. Use all 15 steps and focus on not to Tusnim Avasthanam Uchitam Ityarthaha. Okay, you read everything and relax. I know what is Vedanta Prakriya. No, it's not going to help. So you have 15 steps and move one by one. Nididhyasana Kartabhya Pratigya Prayojanam Aha. And what is the purpose? Why are you doing it? Because I'll give you liberation through this. Purvoktasya Swarupa Avasthana Lakshana Mokhyasya Siddhaya Ityarthaha. So, is that Swarupa Avasthanam, then finally you establish in your Swarupa, not Swabhava. You'll go beyond whatever is playing out because of Prakriti, but you will establish in that Swarupa, which is Nitya Buddha Mukta Swattva, Mukta Swabhavaha. He iti Vedanta Prasiddhavu. Two sabda path, and then it's all right. Two mention is saying, see, the Patanjali Yoga Sutra will see these subtle differences, but they also talk about samadhi. We also talk about samadhi. Their samadhi is a manipulation of mind with the help of your breath and physical posture and everything, and you have chitta vritti nirodhaha. Here, the subtle difference is it's not chitta vritti nirodhaha, but through chitta vritti, brahmakara vritti. Use the mind to drop the mind, as Osho Rajneesh used to say. Interesting guy. Once in a while, he had very insightful statements. So that's what even Buddha says, even Vedanta says. So he was not saying, he was just kind of, what do you call it, synthesizing different schools of thought, but very sharp one sentence that we have to make use of this mind to drop it. And how does that happen? By meditating on, that is Nididhyasana, Brahmakara Vritti. So get oriented towards the Brahman. And they give you very good examples. Like you are inside a cave and you have to find the sun. So you have to get out of the cave. What do you need? You need a lamp. You need a torchlight. And with the help of that torchlight, you're finding your way out of the cave. And then when you come out of the wave, are you using the light or the lamp or the torchlight or the flashlight to see the sun? No, the sun is visible. So that Brahmakara Vritti is having that Abhimukhya orientation of the mind to be able to meditate on the Atman. But once we reach there, this torchlight is too insufficient to light up the source of all lights. The torchlight is insufficient to light up the sun. It becomes nisprabha, it becomes ineffective, useless, irrelevant. You drop it. And okay, the sun, the light is there. Similarly, we start with Brahmakarvati, we start meditating and doing analysis of what is Brahman. But once we are there, then we don't need this buddhi anymore. So the mind gets terminated, everything gets terminated. What remains is that Suddha Atma. That is what he's mentioning. So these are the steps. Verse number 101. So Nitya नित्याभ्यासाद्रिते प्राप्तिर्न भवेत् सच्चिदात्मनः तस्माद् ब्रह्म निदिध्यासेत् जिज्ञासुः श्रेयसे चिरम् नित्य अभ्यासात् rite. Rite jnanam na kaivalyam. That is a standard practice. Without jnana, there is no liberation. But then he's saying nitya abhyasat, without having daily practice, daily sadhana, without it, na praptihi, you can never get this. What? Bhavet, praptihi na bhavet sachidatmanaha. Realizing this Atman just by reading one book, short one, or attending one Vedanta discourse, where the entertaining, very fluent, eloquent Acharya comes and tells, you don't have to do anything. I mean, also was master at that. So, what do you look for? You are the truth yourself, and you come out happy, go and have your coffee. No, it doesn't happen. It doesn't take you anywhere. Rite nitya vyasya, nitya vyasat rite prapti na. If you don't do, nitya is not to every day. Nitya is, satata chintaye. You continue to do it without any interruption. Then what he says, Tasma, therefore, Brahma nididhyase. You have to completely meditate. Jigyasuhu, whosoever wants to know the self, Shreyase Chiram. So if you want to reach that truth and in a sustainable manner, you want to make progress, then you have to do Nididhyasana. That is verse number 101. I mean, he's giving a short introduction before he goes step by step to explain all these 15. Now, what is he's saying? This 15, he's now mentioning, he will now, we would read verse number 102 and 3 together, because these are the 15 steps. These are summarized here in very brief, they are just mentioned. Yamo hi niyamastyago maunam desasya kalata asanam mulabandhasya deha samyam cha drikstitihi prana sanyam manam chaiva pratyaharasya dharana atma dhyanam samadhisya proktanyangani vaikramat. All 15 are there. Asanam. So what do you have? Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama. Then you have Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi in the Ashtanga Yoga Patanjali. Here he's saying first it takes Asanam. So, no, sorry. First it takes him. Yama, Niyama. Yamahi, and then Niyamaha, Tyaga. First Yama, then Niyama, then Tyaga. 3. Maunam. 4. Desaha. 5th. Kalaha. 6th. Asanam. 7th. Mulabandhaha. 8th. Deha Samyaha. Drikstitihi. So let's look at each word. And he will explain each of them. But he's saying briefly. All these are he's mentioning. Each one of them he will elaborate and mention. Yama is kind of, what do you call it? Yama is some kind of a disciplining yourself, isn't it? And we will look at the details, what is mentioned in Patanjali Yoga Sutra and what he is explaining here. Niyama is a little more regulation. Yama niyama. Then tyagaha. What is pratyahara or uparatihi? Tyagaha. Renouncing, getting rid of it. Then maunam, being quiet. Desasya, having a particular place. Vivikta desasya vitvam. That is also mentioned in Bhagavad Gita. Kalata, and that what is what is the nation, what is the time element of these, and he will explain specifically what it means in this case. Then asanam, a physical posture. Mula bandhasya, there is uddiyana bandha. There are different yogic techniques. Mula bandha in physical terms is like you sit in a tight posture and in the tightening of that in the Muladhara chakra, which is essentially pulling together, closing that anus point, and you meditate. And there are different techniques, Mulabandhascha, Deha Samyam. So you remember in Patanjali, when sixth chapter we were doing in Bhagavad Gita, there was one of the Pratibandhaka called Anga Mejatvam. So you are sitting and your body trembles, or you can't sit in a very stable fashion because of either some kind of neural pain, or you have some problem with in the muscles, or you have some pain in the knees. So you have anga mejatvam. That's one of the disturbances that happens in meditation. Deha samyam cha. Then drik sthitihi. So establishing your eyes properly, that drishti. So you have trataka, for example, where they keep looking at the lamp to stabilize your gaze. Drikstitihi prana sanyamanam. So it is pranayama, sanyamanam, cha eva pratyaharasya. Whatever is required, the basic minimum you take, more not required. Pratyaharasya dharana. Dharana is then you stabilize yourself. Yeah, very similar to the Ashtanga Yoga, but the interpretations will be a little different. That we will see. Then Atma Dhyanam, Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi. Then same thing is saying Atma Dhyanam. He has added the word Atma, and then samadhischa, and ultimately samadhi. Prok- Proktani angani cha vaikramat. These are the 15 steps mentioned one after the other. Then he will now explain what is yama. What is yama we had studied in the Patanjali Yoga Sutra when we were doing the sixth chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. So cross reference in Madhusudana Saraswati we had done. So ahimsa satya astheya brahmacharyam, then aparigraha. So ahimsa, first thing, non-violence is very, very important. So non-violence, and then not telling untruth. What is satya? Well, there's a long discussion about what is truth. So you can avoid truth to save somebody's life. Young girl runs to your house. What's happening now in Gaza or in Israel? Some terrorists are chasing a girl, and she runs into your house, and they're asking, did any girl come to your house? Are you going to say yes? If you say no, that is perfect truth so far dharma is concerned. So it will save your religion, or to save your faith, to save somebody's life, you can tell lie. That's not a problem. So the satya has to, you have to sort of put it in a context. It's not very mechanical interpretation of what is true. Ahimsa, similarly, ahimsa, there could be some kind of a trouble if Bhagavan is telling yoga and then sending Arjuna to war. There are complete contradiction between these two. We have had a long discussion on it. Ahimsa and danda are two different things. Ahimsa and pratiraksha, atma raksha, are two different things. Ahimsa doesn't preclude or exclude pratiraksha, atma raksha. So in order for your self defense, if you have to exercise violence, not a problem. And Shastra says that even if somebody is very superior and great and a guru and acharya or respectable, who is trying to hurt your wife or daughter or sister, you should be violent. Shastra says you have to protect your sister, daughter, wife, you know, and then your own dignity, your belief. All these things are very dear to you. Or without that, your life is meaningless. So you have to understand. Similarly, danda, somebody has committed a crime, he has to be punished, executed, maybe. That is violence? No. Violence is not inflicting a pain or anything. Violence is inflicting a pain without a reason, that's without a particular explanation. Satya and astheyam is not taking away anything, avoiding theft. And what is theft here? Picking up anything and taking it from somebody without his knowledge. You have to take permission. Even sometimes we see a good book on somebody's coffee table, and that friend isn't there. Hostel people will pick up books and go. They never return it. That is theya, astheya. And then brahmacharyam. That also is a long discussion. We have done it before. If somebody is married, having a conjugal relationship with his or her partner, is not loss of brahmacharya. Of course, ultimately, if you take you take brahmacharya, celibacy, mutually agreed, that's fine. But brahmacharya is for dharma. Vasishta had a lot of children, and he was, brahmachari. So brahmacharya doesn't exclude what is dharmic conjugal relationship, and the sacred bond of a relationship. That is fine. But then, if both of you are able to, overcome it, well and good. and then brahmacharyam, and then aparigraha, not trying to crave for things more than what is basic minimum that is required for the sustenance of this body. These five are mentioned in yama as basic requirements for yoga sadhana. What he says here, look at it in the verse number 104. Sarvam brahmeti vijnanad indriya grama sanyamaha yomoyam iti samprokta vyasaniyo muhurmuhu. Sarvam Brahma iti. Yama is taking one step further. Yama here is a practice, certain moral principles. Okay? Here, that is informed by some understanding of what is dharma. What is dharma, moral behavior, is based on duality. You have to accept duality to practice morality. It is a good activity, bad activity. I have hurt somebody, somebody has been hurt, and therefore I shall not hurt somebody. I'll not do hinsa. Its duality is accepted. But a Vedanti doesn't accept duality. So, what should be yama for him? It's a superior practice of yama informed by a philosophical acceptance, a philosophical understanding of non duality or unity. So, ethics for a Vedanti is informed by what is the difference between a Vedanti who is a moralist, non Vedanti who is a moralist. A non Vedanti, like a Christian or Islam or even dualistic Hindu faiths, their ethical behavior is guided by do's and don'ts because they accept all of us are different. The Vedanti will same way behave, but is driven by one fundamental underlying truth that all of us are not different. All of us are one. His good behavior emanates out of a different understanding. He doesn't see himself or herself as any different from you, and therefore he can be unkind to you. His sympathy is based on an understanding of unity, understanding of non-difference amongst all that. You see, that's a higher understanding premised in some sort of a spiritual realism, that ultimate truth, and his ethical behavior emanates out of that understanding of the truth. So it emanates out of that. It's not a standard Kantian thing that kingdom of ends, let's all behave that we are in the kingdom of ends and this will be good, or like utilitarians, or there are different schools of thought in ethics. We will not get into that. But very broadly, just understand this much. All individuals are different. I should not hurt. You shall not seduce your neighbor's wife. 10 commandments. You shall not do to your neighbor what you will not do to yourself. All these are based on understanding that all of us are different. Vedanta says all of us are ultimately one. You and your neighbor are one. You and your enemy are one. All of us are one. During the phenomenal experience of life, we appear as different to each other because the fundamental reality is one. Our behavior should not be refuting that fundamental underlying reality. Therefore, what does he define? What is Yama? Sarvam Brahmeti Vijnana. You know everything is Brahman. That is the fundamental underlying reality. Appearance, yes, we are all different from each other. How do we practice Yama? Realizing that everything is one. Indriya Grama Sanyamaha. Why should you be interested in anything? This Indriya Grama, all your Karmendriyas and Gyanendriyas, once they know the truth, the power of the Indriyas become subservient to this wisdom of oneness. You have 10 horses. You have, let's imagine, this beautiful example I always given by a lot of people, having a very high breed, high means not hybrid, but a very good, a dog of a very better, nice breed is not enough unless that is trained. The difference between you have 5 German Shepherds and another person may have some country varieties, but they are very well trained. They may save his life. Your 5 very expensive German Shepherds may not be able to save your life in a critical situation because they are well trained. Now, the Vedantis, this Indriya Grama, all the senses we have, are informed by this ultimate truth. These are like horses who know where to run in a battlefield, even if the master is not there to give them any command. They know what to do. Well trained horses, well trained dogs. Similarly, our indriyas, our senses, once they become well trained dogs, and who is the master? That ultimate truth, that everything is one. Then he's saying, Yamo ayam iti samprokta abhyasaniyo muhur muhu. So one practice is deal with the details. There are two kinds of managers, CEOs. One are the CEOs who are very transactional. They make your life well. They are micromanagers. Morning to night, they will be writing mails. We do that, do that, do that. And there are other managers who are the big time managers, the big picture managers. They come to the office, they hold one session, one town hall, they explain to you, this is our goal, this is where we are, this is the these are the difficult times, this is our balance sheet. We have to achieve this. We all have to achieve this. You find out, have your groups, talk to your respective division heads and managers. You have an action plan. Let's do and achieve it. He keeps motivating you. He has told you the big picture. Everybody is aware. We have 6 months. We have to make a turnaround. Otherwise, company is going to shut. Don't blame me for losing jobs. Everybody works. He gives freedom. He doesn't interfere in your daily business. He's like a big picture manager. Vedanta makes you a big picture manager, not a transactional manager, not a micromanager. So you are not stingy with small ifs and buts. You become a big picture manager. So you inform all your senses. This is the ultimate truth. How do you want to behave? You would behave, all your subordinates are behaving nicely. Similarly, the indriyas, they become abhyasaniyo muhur muhu. You focus on the root cause of all the problems, which is ignorance. To remove it, focus on the truth. Then all others, yeah, they fall in line. They don't have to do anything. Beautiful advice. Then what is, then he's saying niyama? What is that niyama? What we have studied in the Patanjali Yoga Sutras. So he would mention again the details, the detailed micromanager. What he says: saucham, external and internal. Bahya saucha is taking a bath and stuff like that. You go to a sauna, or you go to a jacuzzi, or you take a steam bath or something. What is the antar shaucha? Into meditation, dusting the mind, pranayama, cleaning of the mind. So saucham, santosha. Now you're happy with whatever you're experiencing. Don't crave for more. Then tapas, swadhyaya, ishvara pranidhana. These are the regulations, positives, do's and don'ts. Don'ts he mentioned first, then do's is mentioning in niyama. Tapas, having this tapasya, having discipline, swadhyaya, reading your texts, and ishwar pranidhana, that devotional practice. Here, what he says now, we'll see that we have already done it. Now, what is Vedantic? He's saying, look, Sajatiya prabhahasya bijatiyati raskritihi niyomo hi paranando niyama kriyate buddhihi. Sajatiya prabhahasya, sajatiya vijatiya. You meditate on, you do some good thing, you will find the mind runs away. You are working on a project, you work for 2 hours, then let me take a break, let me see, let me check the score, World Cup is going on, or maybe call up a friend or check your mail or something, some distraction. There are some creative distractions. You have some mails to respond to, you finish that off, come back to your work. Some people do that strategy. So he's saying sajatya pravahasya, keep repeating that particular thing, aham brahmasmi, taila dharavat. So if you go to tribal area, you'll see that. So they put these sesame seeds and they put it in a cotton bag. They'll put it, there'll be two big stones, and they'll put in one. Once I saw that in Koraput. So they had some flax seeds and they had put it in a cotton bowl kind of thing, put it inside, and there was a big stone, and there was some kind of a aluminum plate on which they had put that particular bowl and put another big stone on that, and they had put a kind of a channel made of again an aluminum sheet, and then they had a pot where the oil was dripping drop by drop. It was amazing. It's just pressure. It's cold pressed sesame oil. They're getting a flaxseed oil. They're getting out of it in a very primitive but a very simple way, very effective way. The oil, and you can see that thin thread of oil not stopping. It's like a very thin line that the mind, sajatya pravahasya, if that maintains when you are in meditation, you have the same waves, And then what? Vijatya tiraskritihi. The moment the mind wants to jump over to something else, it wants to get distracted because of any purvaskara, there's a phone call. And many times it might happen that when you are actually going to do a puja, you watch yourself, you'll find it must be happening to all of you. Happens to me, happens to all of us. You'd find that whenever you're going to sit in a meditation, do a puja, there'll be a phone call. God starts testing you. Is this guy serious? Really? He or she wants to meditate right now? Let me test. Then there's a phone call. You receive it, you're gone, God is happy. Now don't pretend that you are very loyal to me. You are loyal to your friends. You pick up the call. So you have to have bijatya tiraskritihi. Drive away all countervailing forces in you who are trying to pull you away from your destination. विजातीय तिरस्कृति नियमो ही paranando niyamat kriyate buddhehi. So you realize that ultimate happiness by using this particular fundamental principle or this particular thing. So, okay, so we have finished up to 105, and then we will, on Saturday, then we'll go to the verse number 106. So we'll stop here, just reach the time limit. I've crossed it by 3-4 minutes. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya
वशिष्यते
Purnamevavastu Shanti Shanti
शान्तिः
Shri Guru Namaha
नमः
Hari Om.
ॐ तत्सत्
Have a good day. We'll see you again on Saturday.
प्रणाम